If the Atlanta Braves were to make a trade to beef up their rotation, should it be Dylan Cease or Michael King? Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Wednesday, January 29th, your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on Twitter, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and Instagram as well. And you can find all my written work, BravesToday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. Best ways to support us, obviously, leave a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tell your friends, or if you really want to, go subscribe to the newsletter. We have both free and paid options. That's how we're able to do what we do every single day. And something that came up this week while we were talking about how to upgrade this roster, because we discussed this earlier in the week, right? You have money left to spend. Going off of the budget that we were told Alex Anthopoulos has, taking out Jurickson Profar's money, you have funds left to spend. But the bar is so high to improve your rotation that it, in my mind, it didn't make a lot of sense to use that money for a free agent starter, because there's not very many guys out there who would be a no doubt postseason performer in left in free agency. But the trade market has some dudes. And I want to talk about that today because we got some reporting. The Padres are interested in trading both Dylan Cease and Michael King. Both pitchers are entering their final years of team control before free agency. And while the immediate snap reaction of most people would be, yeah, Dylan Cease, get him, I think there's pros and cons to both players. Also, supposedly the Padres would want to package reliever Robert Suarez in that deal as well. So we'll talk about him at the end. But first, let's start with Cease, because that is obviously the bigger name of the two available. You'll remember he was with the Chicago White Sox, was traded like mid-March. It was sometime around when the Padres were leaving to go to Asia for that opening series. And he was traded for a couple pitchers. Jairo Uriarte, Drew Thorpe, and then like Steven Wilson, and I think outfielder Samuel Zavala, who's a minor leaguer. And all Dylan Cease did was go out and have a very good season, okay? 14-11 with a 3.47 ERA in 33 starts. And for Cease, that includes a no-hitter. 3-0 against the Washington Nationals on the road on July 25th. No hits, no runs, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts. Threw 114 pitches to do it. That was his season high, but only by 1. His previous high was 113 in 7 innings against the Cubs on May 8th. So he goes deep into games, right? He did lots of starts. It's his 4th straight season with at least 32 starts. So Dylan Cease is a workhorse here. 189 in the 3rd innings, one of a surprisingly low number of pitchers who qualified for the ERA title. Not only did he qualify last year, that is the 4th consecutive year that he has qualified for the ERA title. In the shortened 2020 year, 58 in the 3rd innings in 60 games played. So he came close to qualifying in 2020 as well. In that 33 starts and 189 in the 3rd innings for Dylan Cease, 224 strikeouts, so 10.6 per 9, 65 walks, 3.1 per 9, and 18 home runs allowed, so 0.9 per 9 innings. All of those were around his career numbers. The strikeout rate has dropped a little bit from 2021, where it was like 12.3. But the walk rate's come down. It was 4.0 in 23. It was 3.1 last season. So a little bit of backing off on the strikeout rate, a little bit of backing off on the walk rate. Still very good numbers. Cease was a 4th place finisher in the Cy Young, 22nd place in the MVP in the National League. Back in 22, he was the runner-up in the AL for the Cy Young, and 22nd place finisher for the MVP. Let's talk about what Dylan Cease does first, and then let's talk about the pros and cons, like I like to do, of trading for him and what that package might look like. Okay, so the thing to know about Dylan Cease is he fits into both buckets of pitching styles that Atlanta likes, right? A lot of Atlanta's guys fit into one of two buckets. Bucket A is you have one or two very good pitches and you focus on those. Chris Sale's slider and fastball. Spencer Strider's fastball and slider. Like, you have these two really good pitches and most of your pitch usage is those, okay? Dylan Cease last year, 44% four-seamer, 43% slider. Four-seamer averaged 96.9, so good velocity. Slider, 87.7, so over my magic limit of 85 that, for the most part, makes it a good slider no matter the movement profile. But, like the other bucket of Braves guys, Spencer Schwellenbach throws 6-7 pitches. Max Fried threw 6 pitches. Dylan Cease also has a curveball. He has a sweeper. He has a changeup and a cutter. So he primarily throws the changeup and the cutter to lefties last year. He was trying to overcome some platoon issues he had there, but he has 6 different pitches that he can use. Curveball is the most common secondary outside of that main 2, 8% usage, sweeper at 4% after that, and then changeup and cutter almost exclusively to lefties. Pros and cons here. The pro here, you can probably keep Drake Baldwin in this deal. You'll remember the reporting after the winter meetings. One of the things that kept Atlanta from winning the Garrett Crochet sweepstakes was the fact that Atlanta didn't want to trade Drake Baldwin. You can probably get this deal done without trading Drake Baldwin. And the reason for that is one of the top catching prospects in the game, Ethan Salas, is on the Padres, right? They also have other young catchers that they've really liked, that they've played at the major league level. Like, they have plenty of catchers. And so you can probably get the deal done without him. Now, at the same time, Dylan Cease is going to be the more expensive of the two in both prospect cost to acquire and salary. He avoided arbitration this year, $13.75 million, still cheaper than signing Max Scherzer for $15 million, still better than signing Max Scherzer as far as performance-wise, but will cost you probably more in prospects than your Michael King and some other guys. Another con here is Dylan Cease is a Scott Boras client. And those, like, Scott Boras clients typically don't sign extensions prior to free agency. Now, we did see a Boras client recently sign an extension in Matt Chapman. That was a different situation because he took a short-term deal with the Giants and then, rather than opting out, re-upped long-term. It would be a different scenario with Dylan Cease. But if anybody would sign an extension, he fits the demographic of a guy that would. Dylan Cease is from Milton, Georgia. From the steps of City Hall in Milton to Truist Park, it is 20.4 miles. It is a safe assumption. I've heard people talk about this. I believe he was a Braves fan growing up. If anybody was going to push their agent to go ahead and accept the early extension, it is Dylan Cease. But at the same time, you have to understand, you do run the risk of making a trade for 1 year of Dylan Cease if you're not able to sign him to an extension, although you could tag him with a qualifying offer, and as we discussed in yesterday's show, if you reset the CBT, that pick is higher in the draft. As far as the package for this, especially if you're keeping Drake Baldwin, I think this package leads off with one of either AJ Smith-Shawver or Hurston Waldrop. You have to give up one of those two in this deal. You probably have to give up another top 20 pitcher and then some sort of throw-in third lottery piece kind of thing. I do wonder if maybe this is a destination that would take a Bryce Elder, simply because they're going to need starts in their rotation. Joe Musgrove's not going to be back, I think, the entire year after Tommy John. You've got questions about guys in the back end like Matt Waldron and whatnot. and then losing both Dylan Cease and Michael King either via trade or to free agency. But it's going to be AJ Smith-Shawver or Hurston Waldrop. It's going to be another top 20 guy, and then it's going to be a throw-in piece, a lower-level prospect, maybe a guy like a Bryce Elder, a quad A, could be a major league starter kind of quality guy. In just a second, I want to talk about Michael King because I don't think it's a slam dunk to take Dylan Cease over Michael King, and I'll explain why next, right here on Braves Today. First, thanks to our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, for partnering with Braves Today. Really love what they do. Sign up link is in the episode description. Promo code BRAVES. New customers get a free play and up to $1,000 in bonus cash with your first deposit. The way this works, I'm a huge fan of how they do this. You go through the statistical projections for whatever sport you're looking at, and you choose the players that you are confident in, either higher or lower on their projections. You build your lineup, and depending on what combination of players you choose, and if you're choosing whatever's decided, like expected to be less likely, the over or the under on the projection, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. They're available all over Braves country with the exception of Mississippi. Hate it for you guys. But Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, all of that. Into Virginia, getting those Richmond folks up there who used to watch the Richmond Braves, all the way out. Friends in California, they can play Underdog Fantasy as well. So again, links in the episode description. Promo code is BRAVES for a free play and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Sign up for Underdog Fantasy today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby talking about Dylan Cease versus Michael King for a trade. And for as good as Dylan Cease was, in a lot of ways, Michael King was better last year. So Michael King also acquired via trade, but he was part of the return for Juan Soto, right? Catcher Kyle Higashioka, Drew Thorpe, who got flipped again in the Cease trade, Randy Vasquez, Johnny Brito, and Michael King. And King had been a swingman with the Yankees, back and forth, rotation, bullpen, whatever. He made all but one appearance for the Padres in the rotation this year. So 30 starts, 173 and 2/3 innings, 13-9 with a 2.95 ERA, half a run better than Dylan Cease. 201 strikeouts, so 10.4 per 9. Cease was at 10.6. 63 walks, so 3.3 per 9. Cease was at 3.1. And 17 home runs allowed, so 0.9 home runs per 9 innings. Exactly the same as Dylan Cease. And here's the thing, too. Michael King, in his final year before free agency, also at age 29, is going to make $8.06 million. You could acquire Michael King and Robert Suarez, again, third segment on that, and still have some money left to spend. Now, you're not going to have much, but you could still have some money left to spend. And that's not a thing you could really say for just about any other playoff quality starter. And I'll remind you, he is a playoff quality starter. We saw him in game 1 of the wild card round versus the Padres. 7 innings, 5 hits, no runs, no walks, 12 strikeouts versus the Braves. He mowed this lineup down. Okay, as a starter in his career, 49 career starts, 3.32 ERA. So it's not just his numbers, his career numbers, 3.20 ERA in his career. It's not just good because he was in the pen. When he's been a starter, he's had a 3.32 ERA. So he's been a good starter. Now his pitch mix is different from Dylan Cease's, and I have it on here as a con because it's not as impressive from a stuff perspective, okay? He is a 4-pitch guy. He has a slider, but it's really a 4-pitch mix. Sinker at 93 miles an hour, 28% usage. Changeup, 25% usage. Four-seam fastball, 24% usage. Sweeper, 18%. Slider, 6%. It's very much I call these, this is that second bucket for the Braves, right? The Spencer Schwellenbach, Max Fried bucket of, I throw a lot of pitches. None of them in and of themselves are particularly impressive. But when they're sequenced correctly, when they're located, as you can see by the numbers, it can be very impressive. And the dude, obviously, despite not having amazing stuff, knows how to pitch. Because he's had, after his first full season in the majors in 2021, he had a 3.55. After that, every year, he's finished with an ERA under 3. It's legitimately impressive. Pros and cons here. Pro-wise, again, I already mentioned this, he is going to be cheaper than Dylan Cease, right? He's making $8.06 million this year. They avoided arbitration, whereas Cease is at $13.75. The con to this is Michael King's really only going to be cheaper in money. The prospect cost to acquire Michael King is probably going to be pretty close to what the Dylan Cease compensation would be, right? MLB, teams know how good Michael King is. Right. Dylan Cease does have the track record of workload and of innings, and I do think that's the reason he would be more attractive to Alex Anthopoulos, simply because he has the track record of posting 2+ starts every year, at least 162 innings every year, through almost 190 last year. Cease has that track record. King had 104 2/3 last year in 23, and then 173 2/3 last year, because it's the first time he was a full-time starter. Pros and cons there. Pro for Michael King, he doesn't really have platoon splits, right? Something for Dylan Cease is Dylan Cease had an OPS 100 points worse versus lefties. Still wasn't bad, 652, but he had a 552 against righties, and that's why he has both a changeup and a cutter that he just uses against lefties for Dylan Cease. Michael King has a, if I can read my handwriting right, a 643 against righties and a 654 against lefties. So it's within 15 points of each other, which for the most part is essentially a wash there, right? He has he's very good against both-handed hitters. Now, the con is that's not as good as Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease, again, had a 552 OPS allowed versus righties. It's almost 100 points worse for Michael King, but it's still pretty good, right? A 654 OPS is still Orlando Arcia territory. Dudes are not looking good against Michael King. Pro, he's not a Boris guy. We do have to acknowledge he is not a Boris guy. Flip side of this is he's also not that demographic that is drawn towards those extensions with the Braves. He's from New York State. He's also repped by Excel Sports Management, who had Freddie Freeman. That didn't go well. They had Dansby Swanson. That didn't go well. Fun fact, they had AJ Minter. He changed agents last year from from Excel to a different group. But there's still a little bit of negative history. They're not on the Boris level, but there's still a little bit of negative history between the Braves and Excel there. Pro for Michael King, unlike Dylan Cease, a very low hard hit rate for Michael King. 30.3%, 97th percentile. Dylan Cease gives up hard contact, and he gives up barrels. It's just, for the most part, he escapes the home runs on that. Again, he had 18 home runs all season in 189 innings. Michael King had 17 in 173 innings. The flip side, I already mentioned this, is, the hard hit rate's not that high against, for Michael King, but the stuff plus isn't that high as well, right? If any of his stuff takes a step back, it's a lot easier for his value and his effectiveness to drop, right? He's very much working off of sequencing and locations, whereas Dylan Cease can just rear back if he has to and blow a fastball by you. Spencer Strider talked about this one time. I think it was in spring last year down in Northport when I was down there. And I'd rather throw a fastball at 98 down the middle than 92 on the black. And they're less likely to hit the fastball at 98. And I went back and looked that up, actually. He's right. A fastball down the middle has a lower batting average than 92 perfectly located on the edge of the plate. He's right. And with Michael King, you don't have that ability. You don't have that bat missing just gas you can throw when you get in a jam. You still have to stick to the plan of sequencing and locating and getting a dude to roll over something just, put him on a bad swing, pop it up, something weak, whereas Dylan Cease can just blow it by you if he has to. Again, prospect package, probably similar, maybe a little bit less, but I don't think by much. And you still see the appeal of Michael King being cheaper from a money perspective. But then also you can see the appeal of Dylan Cease from a posting workload perspective, from the demographic and the potential of getting the extension out of him, and from the whole stuff is better perspective. Now, in just a minute, there's a rumor that the Padres are going to want to dump the salary of Robert Suarez in this deal. Let's talk about him next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby, final segment of the Wednesday show, talking about trading with the Padres for Dylan Cease or for Michael King. The rumor here, relief pitcher Robert Suarez, 33 years old, is going to be included, or the Padres want to include him in that deal. It's a salary dump. He's making $10 million this year. And then there's a player opt-out after this season. And if he does not take that, there's 2 additional years at $8 million apiece. So let's talk about Robert Suarez, his statistics, his stuff, and that pros and cons list. Okay, so last season with the Padres, 9-3, 2.77 ERA, in 65 games and 65 innings pitched. 59 strikeouts, so 8.2 per 9, under 1 per inning, 16 walks, that's 2.2, and 7 home runs allowed. One of the big things that stood out to me, and we talked about, or I guess we saw at the trade deadline, how the Padres bullpen got so awesome. They brought in all these amazing relievers. Part of the reason is because Robert Suarez went from elite to okay to crap down the stretch, okay? April and May, Robert Suarez's ERA was 0.72. He was a perfect 17 of 17 on saves, okay? June and July, 2.55 ERA, 6 of 9 on saves, took a loss. August and September, 5.24 ERA for Robert Suarez. So again, 0.72 for 2 months, 2.55 for the next 2 months, 5.24 in the final 2 months. In that last 2 months there, 2 losses, 3 blown saves, a 2.73 batting average allowed, and a 7.31 OPS. Still not amazing. Still not like amazing offensive production, but the point is he got significantly worse as the year progressed. What he throws, he is what me and some of my friends jokingly call velo daddies, right? 4-seam fastball, 71% usage, 99.1 miles an hour. Just absolute gas. Backed up with a sinker, 16% usage at 98.8%. That's 87% of his pitches are all heat, just fastballs. Changeup, 13% usage at 91.1. He does not have breaking pitches. He had a slider that he used a little bit in the past, and he scrapped it. He had a cutter that he used a little bit in the past. He actually threw 4 of them last year, all in one plate appearance. That was weird. He gave up a single on it. I don't know what the story was there, but anyway. But it's almost entirely 4-seam sinker changeup is that combination. So the velocity is great, but he bailed on the slider. He essentially bailed on the cutter. Again, they were all in one plate appearance. I haven't looked it up to see what it was or why, but that's still just weird. The fact that he had a slider and stopped throwing it, I don't know if that's something at 33 years old. Can Atlanta give him a slider? They've been good at teaching those. They taught Grant Holmes a slider. It made him into a whole new freaking pitcher. I don't know if he just doesn't have the motor preferences for it or what, or he just prefers to throw heat, which if I could throw 99 every day, I'd throw 99 every day too. That's all I would do. I'd throw 99 all the time. It's like dudes who are incredibly ripped, walk around with their shirts off for no reason. They find a reason to take it off. I'd find a reason to throw 99 all the dang time. I'm serious. A pro here for Robert Suarez, if you acquire him, is, we've talked about this before, Raisel Iglesias will be gone, or could potentially be gone. His contract is up after 2025. So Robert Suarez could be your next closer, given that great velocity and all of that. The con is, to do that, you would have to give him an extension because, again, he has that opt-out. And if he doesn't opt out, it's 2 years, $16 million, so it's $8 million each year, which is a very good deal. But if he's closing for a contender, he's going to want more than $8 million. So if he has a deal to the caliber of what he can do, again, it was a 277 last year. If he has another year like that, he's going to get more than $8 million in free agency. If he could throw 99 miles an hour with an above average walk rate, 6.2% is really good. It's like 78th percentile in baseball. If he can do all of that, really good chase and everything, he's going to opt out and get more. So you're going to have to give him an extension. Like when you traded for Chris Sale and you immediately gave him an extension, it locked in one of his option years, like it guaranteed one of the option years and added another option on the end. You'd probably have to take Suarez and give him an extension to override that player opt-out. I think here, I did like about Robert Suarez is he was practically elite against left-handed batters last year. 150 batting average allowed, okay? 504 OPS. Now, that's a function of having a sinker as that second pitch. When you are a righty, a sinker is going to be deadly to a lefty because it's going to move away from their bat. Lefty, the equivalent of that would be a cutter, right? A lefty cutter is a very good pitch because it's going to move away from their bat path. A righty-lefty sinker is going to move away from the lefty's bat path. Same idea. Really good against lefties. Flip side is he wasn't great against righties. He allowed a 276 batting average and a 684 OPS. Now, obviously, you usually face more righties than lefties in baseball. There's just more righties in baseball. Another reason why I wish they could give him another pitch. Because he has the fastball obviously stays up. You use it up in the zone, the induced vertical break and all that. But his changeup runs into the bat path of a righty. His sinker runs into the bat path of a righty. You need something that's got vertical drop, a curveball, a slider, something to just do something different against a righty and get the ball away and out of their bat path to not allow hard contact. That's one of the issues for Robert Suarez, and I think probably what's holding him back from being an elite reliever is just having a weapon to work against righties. Not a finished product. They're probably going to dump him because of that $10 million salary, and they're trying to cut payroll. At the same time, the Braves are less excited about those opt-outs and player options and all that than other teams are. So you're probably giving him an extension that, one, has him here long enough where you can fix some of these things, give him a slider or whatever, a curveball, whatever it might be, and then also gets rid of that opt-out and gives you the cost certainty of knowing going forward what he's going to cost you in each season he's under team control. Let me know what you think. Do you want Dylan Cease? Do you want Michael King? Are you fine with having Robert Suarez in that deal as well? And what is your trade package? AJ Smith-Shawver or Hurston Waldrop? Which one would you rather move and why? I want to hear from you. We actually have a mailbag coming on Friday, by the way, so we'll get all your questions in on Friday. I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. You can email us, contact@bravestoday.com. Lots of ways to get your questions to us. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.